Roll call, please.
Randy Gentry,
Here.
Nancy Alsop,
Here.
Brenda Wilson,
Here.
David Thompson,
Here.
Brad Anderson,
Here.
Vicky Wager,
Here.
Steve Ellis.
Here. Correcting the journal of preceding meetings if needed. March 4th, 2025, Sunshine Meeting on page 23. If there are no corrections, I will take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilwoman Wilson, second by Councilwoman Alsop. Any questions from council? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. March 11th, 2025, executive session on page 32. Might not be on page 32.
How about 20?
This is one I didn't get invited to. It was an executive session on those,
On the judges.
yeah,
It says page 32, is that the correct
32.
page? Yes.
yeah.
That?
Yeah, yeah. Very little.
Okay, yep.
Wasn't here either.
I move to approve that we, oh, sorry. we can-
Oh, yeah, I will take a motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Councilwoman Wilson, second by Councilwoman Alsop. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. March 11th, 2025 meeting, page 33. We'll take a motion if there are no changes.
Mr. President, I will abstain because I was not here for that.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Councilwoman Alsop,
Second,
second by Councilwoman Wager. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Number 4, communications from elected officials, other officials, or agency of the county. I believe the auditor's office has something.
Yes, we had a tax sale recently, and I'm going to have Amy Jones, our tax supervisor, come up and talk to you about that briefly.
Hello, I'm Amy Jones. I am Deputy Auditor and Tax Sale Supervisor in the Auditor's Office. We had an in-person live certificate sale on April 1st. In the listing, we listed 646 parcels. Out of those 646, we offered 631 parcels in the sale. 376 of those parcels sold. The remaining 255 parcels will go into the future tax sale, which is going to be September 16th through the 18th. The minimum bid for each parcel was $250, and the bidders had up until the next day on April 2nd until noon to pay, and all bidders paid. We had 97 registered bidders, and we collected $445,400 that day.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Thank you. Steve, do you, or commissioners, do you guys have?
I just wanted to take a minute. Obviously, since our last week's meeting, we've had 2 huge weather events, tornado in New Goshen and the flooding over the weekend. Can't thank our highway department enough for the job that they do. Larry and his team, I mean, you know, at some point we ran out of road closed signs. We have like 200 of them, but that's how this flood was the worst since we've seen, I believe, since 2008. But most roads are open now. There's some in low-lying areas. They have some work to do. There's some washouts, things like that. But anyway, it's been a challenging week, busy week, but just wanted to give a shout out to our highway department, all of our first responders. You know, unfortunately, there had to be some water rescues that should not have happened, but that, you know how that is. I mean, you can't keep people from doing things that they obviously should not do. But anyway, been a busy week, and I thank those guys for all their work.
Thank you.
Can I tag team him on that?
Yes.
I also wanted to add thank you to Larry, because a whole group of guys came down on Battle Row, the south end of Battle Row where it meets at Middletown Road, where we put in beautiful new culverts, but there's a huge drop-off that I just was scared to death that we were going to have somebody just drive right off over into it. And they all came down and they all agreed. They all looked to get the situation over and agreed that they're going to put up barricades and flasher or I don't know, reflectors or something to warn people about it. And I just wanted to publicly thank them for doing that.
Mr. President.
Councilman Wager.
And Commissioner Klinkenbeard, didn't you leave out part of your announcements? Didn't get up there and announce it?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I was not at the meeting this morning because we were watching our granddaughters, because yesterday I welcomed a new grandson into the world. So
Congratulations.
pretty cool week. Yeah.
Steve, were you guys going to present? Okay, all right. Michael?
Yep. So there is, thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. What I wanted to bring up this evening was, something that we discussed back in January that I think maybe has just slipped off the radar a bit, which is the adoption of your council rules. So every year, the council adopts a series of rules that govern meetings and the rules of those meetings. We talked about it in January, and I think there was some desire to, give some new members opportunity to familiarize themselves with the rules. And, we talked about the process for amending them and so forth. But I think given where we're at in the year now, I feel like it's something that should be put in place for just even past practices, as the council has had annual rules, heretofore. So,
Thank you. And everybody should have a copy of those, which is the same copy I got in January. I will take a motion.
I want it, Mr. President.
Yes.
The rules that I have in front of me say that they were adopted as amended on the 7th day of January. Is that incorrect?
what I had been told, Randy, was that there was no acknowledgement of adoption. So I was correcting that. If the record shows that they were adopted in January, then that is my mistake.
It's right after Rule 16 on the last page. So it's printed, actually. So that's all.
It is printed on the rules. That would have been our organizational meeting when these were presented. Probably that's the wrong date. That would have been their presentation date rather than the adoption date.
I'll go back and confirm in the meeting minutes what actually transpired, but
Okay.
yeah, that was just the request that I had to clean it up. So I'll confirm exactly what happened.
And I did ask you to present that today,
Yep.
so that's probably my fault.
It won't hurt anything to adopt them again, right?
No.
No.
Let's wait until we look at the minutes.
Yeah.
and present. Okay.
That's fine.
Lori? This is the Riverscape resolution that was presented by Councilman Morris last week, and the presentation you have tonight.
Great. Thank you. My name is Lori Danielson, and I'm here on behalf of a lot of stakeholders that have been involved in developing a grand, long-term strategic master plan for our riverfront, version 2 of a plan that was originally built in 2008 and had some nice progress, and we're ready to guide us forward into even more redevelopment. So I want to thank you for allowing me to present. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you last week. I just, plans could not be changed, and so I apologize for that. But I feel really fortunate to be here presenting this plan because it's really exciting. I was talking to a property developer outside of our community today, and he had seen the plan, parts of it. He's interested in looking to develop in our community. He said, you really have some grand, big plans. And I said, we do. There's a lot of work ahead of us, but we're excited about that. So I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the support of this council, commissioners, city council, mayor, Riverscape, and Thrive West Central that really helped drive this forward for the last 24 months in getting us to where we are today. So I want to thank all of those people. There are hundreds of Vigo County residents that helped inform this plan and the output that you'll see here today. I'm going to give you some highlights quickly, but again, I would not be here if it wasn't for the past support, and so certainly are looking for your ongoing support for that. So I'd like to give you a high level, have some extra slides, but also some posters that are repetitive to the slides with just some, I think, some good information if you'd like to refer back to that after we flip through some slides here for you quickly. So, Riverfront Development Master Plan, if you look at the bottom of that, the stakeholders in this were the City of Terre Haute, the county, Thrive West Central, and Riverscape. And we embarked on selecting an RFP, and we selected Stantec as our landscape architect firm. And through the work of some great people in government, we also were able to get U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on board, and they donated or contributed in-kind dollars of $250,000. So it was really tremendous to have their expertise and their fingerprint on this plan, and I think that'll be very valuable to us going forward. So why did we do the plan? If you look across the Midwest, but even just here in Indiana, you look at Fort Wayne, Columbus, Mishawaka, Evansville, for communities that activate their riverfront and draw people and building along the riverfront, the ROI is tremendous. For the public investment that goes into riverfront development, we get 3 and 4 and 5 times private investment that comes in to further develop the riverfront. So it adds economic growth, it adds quality of life, it gets people out on the trails and biking and walking, and it certainly does a great job of activating tourism and public access to our river. We've made some headway, but we've got a lot of ways to go ahead of us. So the plan, you've seen parts of that. It's about 200 pages, a lot of appendices, but it talks about our vision and goals, which were informed by our community. It has a regional context. I have a lot of engagement results that we worked through, looked at our market demographics, certainly. This is not just about building on a river, it's getting access to the river. So there's recommendations for mobility and connectivity to our river. And I'll share with you the organizing principles that then generated the output of the results that the architects are recommending for our community. So we started this process back in August and signed the contract with Stantec. It took us a little bit of time to get the 2 partners of the Army Corps of Engineers and Stantec on board so they could collaborate together for this work, and then started our engagement process with stakeholder meetings in November of 2023. Did our visioning session, helped ask the community to help inform what they saw as a vision for our riverfront, what goals they had as well, looked at the existing plans that are in place in our community. So we turned to the River Plan, the Fairbanks Park Plan, the Mill Plan, the One Wabash Plan, everything that these landscape architects needed to know about our community, we delivered to them so they could synthesize that into their final recommendations and report. Spent some time out at the fairgrounds getting input in July, and then, as you can see, additional focused area planning that I'll share with you, and then delivered the master plan at the end of 2024. This was our vision. We really wanted this effort to deliver a plan that inspires investment It's development. We want to activate the riverfront. We know we're going to need private, public, and philanthropic partners to engage in this work. And why not? Why can't we have the most vibrant, beautiful, prosperous riverfront in Indiana? We're a little late to the game when you look at Fort Wayne and Mishawaka and Columbus, but we can learn some things from the work that they've done. So let's set our sights high. You can see the 3 goals there. Again, stimulating economic development growth. We want our riverfront to be sustainable. We want to protect and enhance the natural ecosystem so that it has long-term sustainability. And then finally, we want to provide access to the riverfront so that people can enjoy it and make that convenient and safe for people to engage with our riverfront. So it's like a funnel. We started with a funnel, put a lot of information in, and at the end of this, you'll see the recommendations that came out. This was our study area. So you can see that's about 7,000 acres. The secondary study area to the north was information that came into the planning process, but the real deep dive of detailed planning occurred in what we call the River East in that planning area. So to the east of the Wabash, that gives us opportunity for building, development, and activation. Some highlights on the engagement surveys. In summary, we had over 1,500 people respond to various surveys, over 100 people in our informational sessions. We had 6 key stakeholder meetings. And key takeaways, there's strong, very strong enthusiasm for the potential that this plan offers. If I heard it once, I heard it a dozen times. Stop asking me what we want to do. We want to build out the riverfront. So strong enthusiasm for this. Strong confidence in government and civic leadership to help navigate and support this. And, concerns about how we're going to fund it. So we need to figure that out. And you can see top priorities there, improved parks and open spaces, transit and pedestrian infrastructure improvements. People want to be in the river and around the river in organized activities. We still have a housing gap, so mixed use you'll see as an opportunity for development, and then potential office and incubator space. We then took 70 different parcels of land and took them through sort of a scoring model around our 3 goal areas. So at a point in time, which at this point in time was June-ish of 2024, we looked at different characteristics of the property. Is it close to the river? Is there a brownfield site? What's the use for a property today? What's the access from transportation situations, access to trails? So that was our point in time scoring process to take what was 70 different unique property sites and narrow that down so our architect and our consultants could start building out proposed recommendations. Just as a placemaking technique to give some identity to these spaces based on what's happening in them today and what could happen down the road. 7 different districts were identified. You can see up at the top area of the map there, we've got our Gateway District, the district coming in from West Terre Haute into our community. We have the Civic District where our government campus resides, the Aerospace District where a great partner with GE is continuing to expand and innovate. We've got our Park District. We have our Community District, which would be where current ISU University Apartment resides. And then we have our River District and the Entertainment District, where our friends at the Mill are doing their great work. So just as a placemaking way to sort of brand those districts came out of the study and the planning. So general highlights. Again, I'll certainly open up to questions here, but the recommendations to brand our riverfront and create an identity. So we're working towards that. We came away with a very detailed implementation schedule for the next 0 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, and 5 to 10 years. This is really long-term work. There are infrastructure recommendations and suggestions, housing and retail recommendations, continued work and recommendations to connect our park and trail systems and open spaces, and then we have some recommendations and options for funding with the plan as well. So a little look at those recommendations, and then I'll close this up and take questions. But in terms of mobility and connectivity, this gives you a look at how we might, over time, as our market evolves and things change, how do we open up our streets and access to get people safe and conveniently to our river? Pedestrians, cyclists, and automobiles all living safely and conveniently on one roadway. So this gives you an example of things we can think about to increase the accessibility based on the structure. Go back to that first recommendation that seems to be fairly well received when I've shared that, and that is a first recommendation to rename First Street to Riverside Drive. Why not have a roadway that tells us we're right by the river? Other building and housing recommendations, this is just sort of a framework, again, just guidance and recommendations for us to think about because this is our plan. But preserving well-maintained historic buildings, think about building massing to ensure that there are views of the riverfront, building heights, encouraging mixed-use buildings, making sure we have create active frontage ways to the river through trail systems and park systems, and then continuing to provide affordable and public housing. Here's a look at some of the infrastructure recommendations. We'll need to look at our zoning and code changes. And what that means is how do we connect and develop a system of codes that supports future development along the river. Repurposing industrial areas, streetscaping improvements, and just needing to think about if we need expanded parking along this area of the river, what does that look like so it's most economical and keeps a strong visual impact to the river. Parks and trails, again, we have a strong trail system that continues to get connected, and this plan just continues to build on that. So expanding the cultural trail to Riverside Drive, connecting gaps wherever we can, providing trail connections to attract students from ISU, to the Wabash Riverfront, and further developing public parks and open spaces and recreational areas. So from all that work, we have 3 focused areas that were generated from the planning effort. The Gateway District, you can see up there as a focused area, is the gateway to our community. The Community District focus area, which is down where ISU apartments are today, and the River District focus area as an opportunity, all needing additional study work, but those are the 3 focus areas that the consultants are recommending that we focus on. The Gateway, I'll go right to the kind of the visual impacts, I think tell the best story. So what could that transform to, and what might that look like that offers some green space connecting Turn to the River, the Art Spaces project, potentially having a trail and a pedestrian bridge that goes over Ohio and connects to Fairbanks Park, adding some residential space and or hotels, a food hall, and maybe the old jail, 1908, becomes a new speakeasy for us. Then on the Community District, looking to expand mixed use, ground floor retail shops and cafes, complementing what's happening at the Y with their renovation, continue to expand wellness and recreational activities, and bike lanes and options for our community. That's the vision for that space. And some community just concept images, and these are images that actually our community were able to vote on. Which images, which structure types did you most like and would you like to see in your community? So this is what bubbled up from our community interactions and engagement process. The River District area, that is the old Wabash Environmental Technology. That's about 65, 71 acres if you include Soilmax just at the northern tip of that area. That area would primarily focus on green space, but with the opportunity to bring that up to the highest and best use through some remediation. We could also think about residential being built in that space as well. Ideally, we'd get a pedestrian bridge that connects all of this traffic people that are walking and biking and getting them over into Wabashiki wetlands from that space as well. Some other concept images that came from that space or recommended for that space. And the plan also includes over 40 different potential funding sources, both local, state, private foundations, as well as federal, that we can continue to not work independent with this plan, but when we connect with the Y or Fairbanks Park or Turn to the River, the part of this plan's value is really showing other people, or we have access to acquire grants, that we have a plan. So we can connect this plan to the Fairbanks Park plan and hopefully bring some nice grants and dollars into our community for development. So current and next steps. And I'll wrap up and would love some questions. We're currently looking at building an implementation team. We don't want this to sit on the shelf. We're already acting on some of the things that are recommended in the plan. Want to continue to have property owner discussions. Had just a couple of those this week, being very transparent and seeing what the goals of property owners are and how that aligns or not with some of the recommendations in the plan. Seeking your adoption tonight of a resolution to continue to use this as a guiding document for our community. And when we do that, when we have the county and the city adoption of the resolution, that helps us in acquiring grant dollars when we're out soliciting those. So extremely helpful. And also encourages private investment as well. Building a communication plan, branding launch, incorporating this plan with the works of other plans that are activating the riverfront, like Fairbanks Park, Wabashiki Bicentennial Park, the YMCA expansion, and then we've got the crew and Turn to the River and trails. A lot of great things happening around the river already. Need to do some, the name of the game is pre-development and property site control and having some options to build. So we need a plan for what that looks like and where we might be able to be successful in starting to do some development. And we're doing a community rollout on April 23rd at Holman Center to share this more broadly with our community. So tried to get through that quickly. Thank you for your time. Thank you for obviously your support in the past. I wouldn't be here without the funding and the leadership that you've offered to this point. So would welcome any questions that I can offer and answer this time.
Any questions from council? Councilman Gentry?
Wonderful visual presentation. Appreciate it. Looks great. I'm just curious, I got 3 questions. 2 of them are tied together. How much have we invested in this project so far? And do we have any type of idea of what the cost will be to complete this? Is it too early?
I can tell you it's $590,000 total for the plan, but $250,000 of that was in kind from the Army Corps of Engineers. So we have just under $300,000 from our community. Activating the plan, no idea. Millions.
Okay. And then this, President, this could be out of order, so you tell me if I'm out of order on this, but I was curious, last week we heard from Commissioner Morris with some reservations, and he sits on the steering committee for this. I've had conversations with both Lori and Commissioner Morris. I just wanted to know if Commissioner Morris has any additional input since he was on the steering committee. He may not. I don't know if that's...
Commissioner Morris?
As you can see, my reservations are very simple. It's a city plan, and the county has participated greatly in expanding river in all aspects. And so I would question where the funding's coming from. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further, Mr. President.
Councilman Ellis?
Is it, I think we've discussed this off record, but I'd like to discuss it on record. It's my understanding that a yes vote to this resolution helps them obviously get funding But it does not require, we are not committing the county to any funding by voting yes to this. Is that correct?
Yes, there's no specific ask in this request. Any future request for dollars would have to come back before the council, in theory, I'd say, with approval from the commissioners that, you know, it's a project they want to support, or some department within the county would have to originate that request.
All right, so to clarify, we're simply voting, if we're voting yes, we are voting yes to the concept of what has just been presented to us. We like the concept of where, the direction they're headed. And beyond that, that's pretty much the commitment we're voting yes to.
You're right.
Okay.
I mean, that's accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
No,
Councilman?
no, no.
Councilman Gentry?
So from a legal perspective, Mr. Wright, is there any purpose other, is this just an optics of us passing this? Is there any value to this?
I would say there is value to it, Councilman Gentry, in that it affords, you know, Riverscape and all their advocates the ability to point towards local support when they're pursuing private, you know, private dollars, grant dollars, federal, state, what have you. You always want to see, from, you know, my experience, those people who decide where the money goes always want to see that there's support at a local level for the project that's being considered. And so I think that's the value. But in terms of a commitment that you could be held to contractually, this is not that. So if you think that in approving this resolution, you are agreeing that you have to say yes to every project that comes before you because it's related to Riverscape, that's incorrect. The council, as it's composed now, or as it continues to be composed in the future, takes every vote on its own merit and would not be bound, I guess, by the parameters of this resolution and whatever fiscal decisions you're making in the future.
It does require us, by this resolution, it does require us to prioritize the initiatives, policies, and potential funding opportunities.
Explain to me what that means.
I don't know what that
I know.
means. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. It's very broad, and I'm afraid that we sign on to something, and then later on, somebody comes back and says, but you supported this. I mean, in concept, I think it's a wonderful thing, but I also have some concerns that a member of the steering committee, a commissioner, has concerns that we are getting ourselves into a mess with some type of funding, and I just want to make sure that
I'm not trying to diminish those concerns, Councilman. I understand them and appreciate the, you know, his statements on that issue. I think my opinion just boils back to the discretion that this body exercises on. You are not contracting with anybody in this resolution. There is nobody who could rely to their own detriment in some sort of promissory estoppel scenario where they're saying, well, you signed that saying you supported it. We invested $4 million and, you know, so I mean, you're not binding yourself to a specific project. You are binding yourself to supporting the principles espoused in this document and supporting, you know, I think it's the development of the riverfront. I mean, that's what it boils down to, but that, as you say, is a very general proposition, which is why any specific project would have to come back before you if they're asking to use county resources. I mean, there's just no way for there to be a request for county taxpayer dollars that doesn't involve them coming before this body for approval. So that you're not absolving yourself of that responsibility with this resolution. You would still have to come back, approve specific dollar amounts for specific projects, and the commissioner's responsibility would be to see that those dollars are spent in that manner.
Thanks, sir.
May I just offer one?
Yes.
With that resolution, there is no intention for financial commitment.
I agree.
Yeah, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to say that publicly. That was not the intention. If there's something that's making the council uncomfortable or wording or need to offer a change in that resolution, we certainly would be happy to consider that.
Councilman Anderson.
The county has been involved in this since '08. I was on the board when John Munchner started this and got involved in it. We've funded quite a few things to help get this thing going for almost 20 years, or 17 years ago. We did a lot of money with the bridge that the state, we were involved. Judy Anderson did a great job getting the bridge done. That was an $8 million project, I think. So we've been involved in it from the very beginning. It's now becoming a little more complicated and a little more sophisticated than what we did before. But we've been involved in it a long time, and it is part of our community, part of this county, and we actually own some of the property down there. And, you know, I think it's a great thing to go with. But I think one of our concerns was the budget, you know, working with that. But the county and the commissioners have been involved in it for forever, and since it started. And I was in Evansville a few months back and took a walk on their thing. It's a very nice thing, and I hope we can do that. So, you know, thank you for giving us this.
Thank you.
Councilman Ellis.
I'll mention one more thing. By the way, I love it. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming to speak to me this week. I like the direction that they're headed. My question is, I know I have not had a chance to read the roughly 500-page document. I'm guessing most of us have not. Would it be prudent to modify the vote to say we're accepting what was presented to us today, but not necessarily accepting or agreeing to whatever's in the document that we haven't had a chance to review? So that we're still giving a positive vote towards the project as a whole, unless someone here has read the document, in which case maybe that has happened and somebody here can speak to it.
Michael, I'll refer
No,
that to you.
I mean, I can't say, Steve, that I've read the whole document. I have gone through it. I've seen it, you know, I mean, I think, you know, what Lori laid out is what I would call the guts of it in terms of lining out the different districts and trying to explain what the priorities are for those given the assets that exist there already. But yeah, I don't know that, I think, as I explained to Councilman Gentry, the value that they derive from this is in knowing that there's local support for the project. So as long as the resolution is clear on that point, then I don't think that what documents that specifically referencing is, you know, all
Sure.
that critical.
Lori, would it impact you in a negative way in any fashion if we were to amend it to say that we're accepting the presentation today, not necessarily whatever's in the 500-page document, just since we haven't read it? Does it still give a positive impact for you to be able to go and ask for grants?
I guess, looking at the resolution, so you're offering a different resolution.
Just a
Then what's a-
modification to it to say that, and you may have 6 people up here or 7 people up here that are willing to vote yes as it sits now. What I'm asking is, I think if there's anyone who's on the fence at the moment, they're on the fence because they've not had a chance to read that document. And so if we were able to amend it without impacting your ability to seek out grant money, then maybe that amendment could simply say, we agree to what we've seen so far, which is a phenomenal presentation. Does that hurt you in any way?
I guess I need to ask for legal counsel only because there's a resolution drafted, so I think we need to talk about modified
Yeah.
language to that resolution.
Yeah, I mean-
Resolution is as the resolution reads, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the resolution as it reads right now is approving the master plan. I think what Councilman Ellis is proposing is a resolution that would simply approve the presentation that was received tonight and I guess the ideas expressed in that. So it would be, this resolution as it's currently constituted would have to be substantially modified to accomplish that. But that is the council's prerogative to amend the resolutions that are before it. And, if that's the desire, it can be accomplished. So.
Lori, I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate what Riverscapes has done. I think there are a few of us up here. Councilman Anderson has dealt with this for probably longer than most of us. Councilwoman Wager, Councilwoman Wilson, we've dealt with this the past several years. So I really appreciate what you guys have done. Seeing this brings it all to light. I know we have budgeted this in our budget. We've given money to Riverscape in the past. To finally see something, I think is excellent. The part of your plan that I like all of it, don't get me wrong, but the regular progress reports, I think is imperative to the council, to keep them informed on what is happening and where you guys stand. And again, I can't say enough. I think you put on a great presentation. I understand it's a lot longer, and as long as you guys have been working on it, it should be. So I don't know what else to say about that, but I really do appreciate you stepping up here today.
Thank you for the time, and I'll just add one thing. Any strategic plan is a living, breathing document. It's on paper today, and it's already changing. So the essence of the resolution is to approve this as a guiding document, but we're going to work the plan, and it's going to change, and we're not going to do everything in it. We're going to add things to it. So, and that's why it's important to come before you and be transparent about where are we in the plan? What are we doing with it? Because you helped fund it, and that's our plan.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wager.
I would like to call for the question and let's vote on this resolution.
Pardon me?
I'd like to just call for a vote and let's vote on this, and if we vote it down, then we'll redo it.
With that, I will take a motion.
I'll second the motion.
I called for the question, that's motion, okay, go.
Councilwoman Wager makes a motion to approve the resolution, second by Councilman Anderson. Any comments from council? Take a roll call vote.
Randy Gentry?
I haven't read the 500 pages. I'll vote no.
Nancy Alsop?
Aye.
Brenda Wilson?
Aye.
Steve Ellis?
I'm in the same position as Randy. I am for this 100%. I love what you're doing, but I can't represent the taxpayers without and vote yes to something I haven't read. I'm gonna have to vote no.
Vicky Wager?
Aye.
Brad Anderson?
Aye.
David Thompson?
Aye. Motion passes 5-2.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other communications from elected officials, other officials, or agencies of the county?
Good afternoon, Council. Steve Witt, Terre Haute Economic Development Corporation. I have Jason Simler of Baker Tilly, and we're here tonight. This is the second year of a new requirement for the Redevelopment Commission of the county to make a presentation to the fiscal body in regard to the status of our tax increment finance districts. And just very brief history. Our first TIF, all of our TIF areas are in the Vigo County Industrial Park or in Industrial Park 2, which is the former Pfizer property. And back in 1996, when Heartland Steel came in, the Redevelopment Commission made a decision. They could have just made one giant TIF area. They decided to do that, not to do that, and to make evaluate projects on an as-needed basis. So we ended up with 3 or 4 or 5 TIF areas. We have no outstanding bonds. They're all paid off. What we've been doing with our TIF monies that we've accumulated in recent years are making infrastructure improvements, and that keeps us from coming to the council to ask for additional appropriation. So it's been over a decade, I'm sure, since I've been to the council asking for any money. But for example, out of our Staples and Certainty TIF areas, we've made about $1 million of improvements to Industrial Drive Road. We worked with Larry on that. Last year, we put in a water main that went from Pfizer Drive down to Harlan Road, and that'll help Intech. We have a $2 million commitment to Intech for infrastructure, but they haven't told us what they want to use it for yet. It'll probably go to improvements to Harlan Road. And when we do use funds, there's a process to do it. Starts with the Redevelopment Commission, goes to Area Plan, goes to the County Council for approval to amend our plan, and then back to the Redevelopment Commission. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jason, and he can provide an update on where we are now with our various TIF areas.
Thank you, Steve. Again, Jason Simler, principal at Baker Tilly. I do have some schedules. And I say schedules loosely. As Steve said, this is a requirement that has been around for a number of years, where the Redevelopment Commission is required to file information with the Department of Local Government Finance on their gateway. This has been, again, for a number of years, but just starting last year, this also information had to be presented to the council. So that's what we're doing here tonight to meet that new requirement. The information that has to be filed on Gateway is information from the previous year. So what I have in front of you is the information that we have filed on behalf of the Redevelopment Commission. You can see on the first page there at the top, kind of the middle of the page, I guess, it lists the 5 existing TIF areas that the county has. You see Heartland Steel, Staples, ThyssenKrupp, Certainty, and Pfizer. On the far right side, you can see when those dates were established, and then when TIF areas are anticipated to expire. So for instance, Heartland Steel, you can see was created September 9th or 29th, 1997, and is anticipated to expire September 9th, 2027. So again, this is just all information that is filed with the Department of Government Finance. Below that, you can see the members of the Redevelopment Commission and their titles that were on the board in 2024. Page 2, we're also required to submit the amount of revenue that was received in each allocation area and the expenses that were also spent out in 2024. So you can see in CSN, there was $834,000 received. Staples, $488,000 in tax increment. Certainty, $237,000 received. And as you can see there in the blue, we also spent about $101,000 out of that fund. And most of that was for engineering, for the capital expenses that Steve discussed. Pfizer received $24,000 of tax increments, and then ThyssenKrupp received $379,000. And in that TIF area, there's an agreement with the Redevelopment Commission and ThyssenKrupp that the amount of revenue that we collect, we kind of reimburse them for equipment that they have purchased. And on page 3, we're also required to submit what the current account balance was at the end of 2024. So there at the top of the page, you can see what the balance was for each of the separate funds as of December 31, 2024. And then at the bottom, if there were any bonds outstanding or grants, we're also supposed to list those, list the amounts of principal and interest that's outstanding, how much was paid, and when those bonds mature. And as Steve mentioned, we currently have no bonds outstanding at Redevelopment Commission. There have been bonds that were issued previously, but those have all been paid, and were actually paid off early. So I believe, if I remember correctly, I think this has been submitted on Gateway. So I think after tonight, the Redevelopment Commission, the council has met their obligation for this year. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions from council?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other communications from elected officials, other officials or agency of the county? All right, we will move to reports from committees. There are none. Resolutions and ordinances other than appropriations. Resolution of reallocation of existing appropriation 2025-04 area planning transfer. So on page 15 of our agenda, or book.
Good evening. Jared Baylor, Executive Director of Vigo County Area Planning. First off, I too would like to apologize for missing last month, and thanks Sydney for filling in my stead. I think she did an excellent job in explaining what our request is. Just provide a quick update. Since that last meeting, I have had conversation with council members about some of the concerns that were expressed, and we're happy to announce that we are beginning to receive more localized vendors' quotes. The first one coming in from Forefront Upfitting for that project.
Questions from council? You got an appraisal or an estimate from them?
Yes, sir.
What is that? What is it in here?
No, it's not there. We just got it.
What is that dollar amount?
3561. But to be fair, I've emailed him. I'm not for sure if it's apples to apples with everything else that we've been receiving, so I wanted clarifications.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Good.
good.
Questions from council?
I'm gonna make a motion to table till next month so we can get more bids.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gentry, a second by Councilwoman Wager. Those in favor, or let's do a roll call vote.
Randy Gentry,
Aye.
Nancy Alsop,
Aye.
Brenda Wilson,
Aye.
Steve Ellis,
Aye.
Vicky Wager,
Aye.
Brad Anderson,
Aye.
David Thompson.
Nay. Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you.
Moving on. Amend salary ordinance 2025-12, Vigo County Homes for Children position changes, page 16. Norm?
Mr. President, members of the council, I want to first apologize for not being able to make last week's meeting. As Mr. Gentry so astutely pointed out, I was on the beach getting a tan and could not be here, getting buried in the sand by my grandson. But I'm here to answer any questions. I think that the staff at the group home did an amazing job I watched it on YouTube, and they explained it pretty well. Mr. Gentry had some questions. I can go over those. You stated that you wanted someone to analyze from a budget perspective what the change would do. This has been analyzed again and again and again since November of last year, working with the Auditor's Office, Human Resources Office, and the Commissioner's Office, as well as DCS. The additional costs that will cost the county next year is going to be about $19,000. That's the difference in moving people from a hourly level 9, or strike that, level 7, to an hourly level 9. So you're changing the roles and duties of 3 people that work at the group home. Instead of sitting around watching kids sleep, they're actually be interacting, doing youth care specialist services. We have 4 youth care specialist spots budgeted, 3 night guard spots. We're combining those into 7 youth care specialist spots. We need a minimum of 6 to run one home. So that'll put us at the 6 and give us an extra one to cover vacations or anything else and get us ready to open the north home, which I sincerely hope will happen with maybe some additional appropriations this summer, but most definitely when we meet with the Budget Committee to talk about expanding our services. If we open the Rose Hill home, it will cost an additional $400,000. That's based on current salaries. Those aren't my figures. They came from the payroll clerk. So that's Auditor's Office figures. That's roughly what it would cost to have additional 6 people employed to go and open that home. We ran through the figures before. That the recouping of that money from the state is very possible. In the short time that we've been open, since February 24th, the county has brought in over $164,000. So just in that very short period of time, with only a few children, because we don't have the staff to watch them or to care for their needs or to transport them, which is why we're back here asking that we change a daily pay rate to an hourly pay rate. So we can change the schedule to a 12-hour schedule so that we can begin to hire people, because nobody wants to work a 48-hour schedule. So that's the problem. Can't get people to apply. When they do apply, they work for a couple days, can't handle the 48 hours straight, so they quit. So the staff that you saw at last meeting, and in the emails that I sent to all of you a few weeks ago, the staff is working 12, 14 days straight, doing their job as well as youth care specialist jobs, so we can keep that home open. So we desperately need to change the hours. It costs no additional money this year. There will be no increase to the budget, no additional appropriations for 2025. And as a reminder, there's some confusion. Mr. Gentry put it at people passing each other at 50,000 feet. I want to make sure that we hit head on and everybody understands. The council passes a budget sometime in late fall. It then takes effect in January. We begin meeting on this budget, depending on the commissioners, or strike that, the president's, calendar, sometime in June, July, and then the council passes the budget sometime in October. It takes effect in January. So all the figures that we're operating on were discussed in July of '24 to take effect in '25. And what we'll be discussing this summer in July of '25 will be taking effect in January of '26. So we're not operating on last year's budget. It's this year's budget. It was approved in '24, and then, of course, takes effect in '25. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page there. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you. Councilman Ellis?
First, thank you very much for all your hard work and all that you've done to help these kids out. I've got maybe 2 questions.
That's fine.
One is, when budget time comes around, if I'm understanding you correctly, you will need, assuming we haven't opened the second home, you will need an additional 19,000 in addition to what we allocated for this year from last year.
Yeah, I believe that's what it is. If you take the increase in pay of the 3 people that are currently making $19.91 an hour, and we raise them to $22.53 an hour, and you multiply that times 2080, which is the hours per year, and you multiply that times 3 people that we have, and you get about $16,000. And if you add some perf and FICA and everything else that they may get,
Okay.
it's around that. Now, do I have an exact amount? No, and it also depends on what the council determines as a pay raise for next year.
Copy.
So these are based on this year's figures. If you give a 3% pay raise, that all gets pushed.
Right. All right, second question. You said we have brought in how much so far this year?
Well, since I've taken over,
Right.
$164,108.28.
All right, so my question there would be, and this may be too premature to know the answer to this, of that money that's come in so far, how much of that is more or less a net? In other words, have we had to pay for medical expenditures, obviously food? What expenses come out of that that
So-
we would need to pay for out of that?
Right, so this is a department that is a county taxpayer-funded department, like the highway or the juvenile center or the health department, any other department that is a part of the county government. We just have the ability to recoup some of that to offset the costs. None of our money that comes in goes to pay bills. It comes in and goes to the general fund to repay what you guys have put up, in essence. If we do a good job and we're frugal and diligent about our work, there's opportunities to bring in a 12-month period, nearly everything that you've budgeted for us. Starting late, starting with bad staff, or not bad staff, lower staff, it puts us a little bit behind. But I'm confident that, we'll be able to recoup a lot of that. We don't receive money from DCS and then pay a bill with it.
Right. I guess I apologize. I probably didn't ask the question properly. Is there a way for us to know if we bring in X amount of dollars and we know that our operating expenses, regardless as to where it comes from, it's coming from the taxpayers?
Yep.
Is there a way to know how many dollars we're spending to keep a home open? And that may help us understand whether or not it makes sense to open a second home.
Yep, so the budget was approved, by the council, placed in various line items, office supplies, medical, repair to buildings, all these different line items that we're using to operate every day. Whether it's a new door at Menards or whether it's some paper clips from Staples. We have to buy those items and they come out of certain line items that's paid for. At any given time, you can request the auditor do a report that will show you how much any department may spend in any particular line item. And of course, at the end of the year, what we don't spend automatically reverts back to the general fund. And so I don't know,
Okay.
I've not looked into if they turned anything in last year. And I don't expect to turn anything in this year.
Okay.
And that's because I think we need to get things moving.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if I answered it.
Further questions? Councilman Gentry?
I just want to state that I think maybe some misconception as to what I mean by a budget review, and I think I've refined my language a little bit, Mr. Loudermilk, is that first and foremost, I wasn't here when that last budget was passed. Came on in February. We've been inundated with numerous pay grade changes, not just you, other departments. The fiscal impact of those maneuvers, you relayed that this has been gone over several times. but I represent the taxpayers. And my concern was and continues to be that anytime that we are doing pay grade changes, one, when we make a pay grade change, we move the midpoint. A previous council promised the employees of this county that within a 3-year period, we would have all the county employees at midpoint. When we have several department heads come in front of the council asking for pay grade changes, it's a concern of mine that we are making it unattainable to get everybody to midpoint. Whether your move makes sense, another department head makes sense in their presentation or not. I'm not asking for it to be delayed to the point that it would be something in this year's budget, and I think that's where some of the misunderstanding is. I simply wanted to know the fiscal impact, which you've described tonight probably better than any department head, in the sense that you're telling me the fiscal impact is about a $19,000 fiscal impact. So out of fairness, you know, I do get concerned about these changes. I like this change better than I liked the previous changes you requested, because it does make sense that we have someone basically sitting at the home, babysitting, while the actual other persons are sitting there sleeping, other employees are sleeping. So to some extent, this makes sense, but I think I wanted to clarify so you understand it's the fiscal impact, ongoing, not today, not tomorrow, but what does that look like? And so I appreciate the way that you presented it today. Whether I'm for it or against it, I still am trying to get all the county employees to midpoint, and I'm just afraid every time we do this, it just moves that number farther and farther away from us. So thank you, sir, for your presentation today.
Any questions from council?
I have, not a question, but this is a restructure of something that we've had some problems with in the past. We were shut down for a while, and to make it more efficient, I think he's trying to restructure this to make it more efficient and safer for the kids and being able to employ people.
I mean, yeah, I almost called you commissioner, but Councilman Anderson, that's correct. It's simple. I can't find anybody that's willing to work for 48 straight hours.
Yeah.
I mean, the schedule is 48 on, 48 off, 48 on, 48 off, 72 on, that's 3 days, and 72 off. There's nobody that's going to do that. And it was discussed years and years prior with the previous director and DCS auditors and the staff, begging to want to change. And we just can't go forward. I mean, you had one person quit mid-shift. These people are picking up house parent, youth care specialist duties all the time, and then another person worked 2 days and quit. So of the 4 spots we have one that's filled. The other 3 aren't filled, and so we just can't get people to work that. And so it's kind of like if we agree that we want to keep the group homes open, if we agree that we want to support youths that are in dire need of help, and if we agree that the impact is just a mere $19,000 out of a $50 million budget, I think that's a win. I know next year we'll have some tough, depending on what the state does and how much they're going to hurt us with their property tax reform. I don't want to be in your shoes, but going to midpoint should be the least of your concerns. I think trying to pass a fundable budget, I won't even say balanced, but a fundable budget is going to be what you're going to be tasked with doing. But we're going to do you a favor. We're going to give you a bunch of money to help. A lot of other departments can't promise that, but I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilman Wigger.
Let me make a motion that we pass this appropriation request favorably.
Motion by Councilwoman Wager. Wait here a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilwoman Olson. Any further discussion? Roll
Yes,
call vote, please.
I did have-
Stand by. Councilman
For
Gentry.
clarification, what we're voting on is a pay grade change with a pay increase. The function of going from the 48 hours to 12 hours shifts is not technically tied to this, or is it tied to this?
Mr. Gentry, I think that the way I was explained why I had to come back, and although I really love speaking in front of this group, they made me come back again because the way it's written in the salary ordinance, it's written as like a daily pay versus an hourly pay. So even if we didn't even think about the other people and just said, okay, let's just talk about the 4 youth care specialists, we'd still have to amend the salary ordinance to pay them hourly versus a daily pay. They make $257, $58 a day.
Okay.
So is that tied? I think it's all balled into one, I think.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry,
Nay.
Nancy Alsop,
Aye.
Brenda Wilson,
Aye.
Steve Ellis,
Aye.
Vicky Wager,
Aye.
Brad Anderson,
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. President, thank you all very much.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you, Norm. Next, ordinances relating to appropriations. Additional appropriation 2025-23, Health Department, page 17 in our booklet.
Joni Wise, Administrator. Are there any questions from last week?
Can you put the mic down a little more, or stand up?
She's got her best high heels on.
Joni Wise, Administrator. Do you have any questions after last week's presentation?
Questions from council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Wager, second by Councilwoman Wilson. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry,
Aye.
Nancy Alsop,
Aye.
Brenda Wilson,
Aye.
Steve Ellis,
Aye.
Vicky Wager,
Aye.
Brad Anderson,
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye.
Get out of
Motion
here.
passes
Thank you
7-0.
very much.
Thank you. Additional appropriation 2025-24, prosecutor, equitable sharing budget request, page 18 of our booklet.
Good evening. I hope to be as brief as Joni was. Any additional questions since last week?
Nope.
Any questions for, none, I will take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilwoman Wager,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Wilson. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry,
Aye.
Nancy Alsop,
Aye.
Brenda Wilson,
Aye.
Steve Ellis,
Aye.
Vicky Wager,
Aye.
Brad Anderson,
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. C, additional appropriation 2025-25, drug-free community fund request, page 19 of our booklet.
Brandon Halleck, current treasurer for Drug Free Vigo County.
Questions for Brandon?
Mr. President, is this somebody have the floor? Sorry.
Councilman Gentry?
I approached Michael Wright for tonight's hearing, or tonight's meeting. So, had a great conversation with you. Appreciate all the time you spent on the phone talking about the programs and all the different things you're doing, and some amazing work. So again, thank you for that time. Mr. Wright, would you do me a favor in the future? Could you dig into Indiana Code 5-2-11, specifically focus on possibly Section 2 and Section 5, and you can call me or bring information back to the next meeting, or just give me a call. I just want you to review it, that, to make sure that we're implementing this process correctly and how we allocate these and appropriate these funds. And just want to make sure that we're within the guidelines. My concern is CGI, if we get sideways with them in any fashion, that they can actually freeze these funds, and I don't think anybody wants that. So just dug in on that a little bit, and just like a legal opinion on that in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Can I add to that? I don't have all those in front of me, but I will say that CJI has to. We have a report, an annual report that we send to them, and they actually have to certify these funds. We can't actually disperse these. Well, I say we. The auditor can't disperse these funds without their approval. So it's not. They've looked at all the documents, and they do give a final approval.
Thank you. Councilman Wager?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
By Councilwoman Wager, a second by Councilwoman Wilson. Further discussion? Oh, awesome. Sorry. Councilwoman Olson. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry.
Aye.
Nancy Alsop.
Aye.
Brenda Wilson.
Aye.
Steve Ellis.
Aye.
Vicky Wager.
Aye.
Brad Anderson.
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Sorry. Next, additional appropriation 2025-26, Vigo County Community Correction, X-ray scanner and ruler. Page 20 of our booklet.
Good evening, council. We had requested $30,120 for a X-ray and conveyor system. We gave you 4 estimates. We are actually going to formally request that you would approve the AutoClear system for $19,657. There was a question by Councilman Gentry about whether this was the 160 generator, and it is. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Questions by council? Hearing none. I'll take a
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by
Second.
Councilman Wager.
Second.
Second by Councilman Anderson.
Gentry.
Gentry.
David, where you at?
What?
I'm not a ventriloquist. Came from down there.
Second by Councilman Gentry. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry.
Aye.
Nancy Alsop.
Aye.
Brenda Wilson.
Aye.
Steve Ellis.
Aye.
Vicky Wager.
Aye.
Brad Anderson.
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Motion passes 7-0. Additional appropriation 2025-27, Highway Department. Request for diagnostic scanner. Page 21 of our booklet.
Good evening, council. Larry Robbins, Vigo County Engineer, just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions from council? If not, I will take a motion.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Motion to approve by Councilman Gentry. Motion is second by Councilman Wager. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry.
Aye.
Nancy Alsop.
Aye.
Brenda Wilson.
Aye.
Steve Ellis.
Aye.
Vicky Wager.
Aye.
Brad Anderson.
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
You got more?
I got one more, just a small one.
Okay.
Additional-
A little bitty one.
Additional appropriation 2025-28, Spring Hill Road change orders, page 22.
Again, council, Larry Robbins, Vigo County Engineer, Highway Director. I guess that we discussed this at length last meeting, but if you have any additional questions, please feel free. I'll happy to answer any of those. So.
Questions from council? Councilman Gentry?
Has Frontier made any contact with anybody from the county that we know of?
Not that I am aware of, no. I did have discussions with Terry Monisset this morning with the route that we're going to seek to try to recoup some of these funds like I discussed last week. So he's looking into that about what code he can cite, how we can go about trying to recoup these funds for the county.
In your experience, in regards to these types of projects, utilities seem to have kind of their own little way of doing things, we've learned on this.
Yes.
The overages that we're approving tonight, are they solely associated with Frontier failing to move their equipment so that you could proceed, or are there, out of this whole budget, I want to know what is attributed to Frontier?
So the total for the Frontier, what I would call, and this is based on my experience, like I noted last meeting, we did have other utility delays, but utility delays are somewhat built into these types of projects. We have some time in the schedule to be able to accomplish those. Like I said, Duke Energy, in the middle of their relocation, had to pull out and go to Florida for a hurricane event to assist down there. They still met their relocation plan. During any of these projects, in the design phase of the project, we meet with the utilities, we discuss the project in depth, they are provided plans, and as everybody picks every utility picks their corridor and where they want to be in this process, or where they want to be in the right-of-way, it is all shared with all utilities. So everyone is on the same page going forward. Everyone is aware of everyone else's schedule. For example, Frontier really couldn't get started until Duke relocated their poles because they were on theirs. But all of that is taken into account with the time that is given in the project for utility delays. So if I'm a contractor and I'm bidding this job, I know I'm not going to be able to just bid this and then go work next month because I've got to wait on utilities to get relocated, and there's going to be some, and I can build that into my budget a little bit. This, in my opinion, the Frontier delays themselves, which I will note they total $340,328.58. Those are escalation costs due to them not being able to relocate within a timely manner for different phases. One of them, we could not continue work in the fall just because the schedule and the amount of work that had to be completed, we were right in that window to be able to get that before NDOT cuts us off at counting days for projects at December 1st. We could not get our work done before December 1st unless they relocated in that 2-week time frame. There was no response. They did not provide any movement to try to get that relocation done. They still didn't start it until after January.
So these were excessive?
These were excessive in my opinion. That's the only reason I feel that it is warranted for the county to go after Frontier to try to recoup some of these funds, all of them in my opinion, but as much as we can get back. Now, I will note this request is for $381,232.14. There are a couple of change orders on there that aren't related to that. We added a couple structures on the east end to deal with some flooding in those kind of areas and stuff that weren't accounted for in the original project. There was a sanitary lateral for the firehouse that we had to relocate that we did not know until we opened the road up. So those kinds of things, and then those were included on that just because, like I said, I noted last week, our over-under change order is where we balance all of our line items, and usually there is some credit there if we continue that, and there was a $200,000 credit. So without getting all of this closed out, I didn't know exactly what that number was. But this one, a large part of this is escalation costs due to phases moving years from 23 to 24. And then escalation costs is based just because the contractor was sitting idle while all this could have been going on. So.
Well, as I said a week ago, taxpayers should take note when they're signing up for a provider, whether they want to use Frontier or not, considering Frontier decided to take a lot of taxpayer dollars in slowing down this project. So love for Frontier to reach out to the county in some fashion, or commissioners or legal counsel. But thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Councilman Anderson?
The money's coming from EDIT money, right? What
Correct.
does that do to you for this year's projects?
So I believe, I didn't get the exact figure, I believe there's enough cash balance in EDIT for now. I think we have a $13 million cash balance in there right now, not counting this year's budget. So funds are coming in that every year. So that's something we can discuss in depth, the overall plan for the EDIT budget during budget time this year, and what those contracts are. But this will completely close out Spring Hill, at least anything we're doing on this phase. This will completely close that out, and that will be done.
And a question for you, did it flood at the old Jones site on Spring Hill this time in all this rain?
I don't. Mike,
I don't.
did you hear from, I didn't even ask, Chad Feller?
Did you hear from Chad?
Yeah,
Did he-
Chad.
Have you flood
No,
water?
no.
He didn't?
We were good.
Took care of that then?
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
great.
I
I figured I'd have heard from him.
Council
if it
people, I
hadn't.
wanted to say this. On a Friday night, I was out running the roads, probably shouldn't have been out there. But the ditches and the culverts that we've replaced were managing water flow very well.
Good.
And, I mean, we've done a good job, guys.
I know we had a problem there for quite a few years, so
Yeah.
Larry and I went out on that and looked at it. And
Well, the creeks filled up on us, but the ditches were carrying the water to the creeks.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Further questions?
Call for the question. Let's vote. I make a motion, we pass this exorbitant amount caused by Frontier.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilwoman Wager, second by Councilwoman Olson. Roll call vote, please.
Randy Gentry.
Aye.
Nancy Alsop.
Aye.
Brenda Wilson.
Aye.
Steve Ellis.
Aye.
Vicky Wager.
Aye.
Brad Anderson.
Aye.
David Thompson.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Honorary resolutions. There are none. Resolutions relating to fiscal policies of the council. There are none. Appointments. None. Public comment.
Patrice Dayton.
Good evening. My name is Patrice Dayton. I am not asking for any money, so that's good. Breath of fresh air. I am actually here to introduce myself to you as the newest member of Thrive West Central. In my new role, I will be working with government entities in the 7 counties that Thrive serves. And although I have worked with all of you at some point in my old job, I wanted to let you know that I look forward to working with you in my new role. As you are well aware, Vigo County and Thrive have a wonderful partnership already with the Homes for the Future projects, and we look forward to working with you more in the future, literally building up our community, watching it prosper and thrive. We like that word, thrive. And on the topic of housing, I wanted you to know that we have secured a date and a time and a location for our 2025 Thrive Housing Summit. I have saved the date notices for you that I will give you. You will be formally invited via email or snail mail. But the Thrive Summit, Housing Summit, will be September 11th and 12th at the Terre Haute Convention Center. It will be a regional summit, which means that folks from all 7 of our counties will be invited. Realtors, developers, builders, lenders, and community leaders like you will be under one roof, learning more about housing opportunities and housing needs in West Central Indiana. So we hope to see you there. Thank you for your time. I am also going to give you one of my business cards so that if I can assist you in any way in my new role, please don't hesitate to call on me. Any questions for me?
Where's Kevin?
I miss Kevin.
I know.
I miss everyone there, actually. But actually, he retired. He's doing well. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So anxious to see you. Thank you so much.
Further public comment?
Yes, here's Mike.
My name is Mike Harding. I'm president of the Friends of Ray Park Group, and I don't know how to really do it, but I'd like to make a presentation on behalf of Friends of Ray Park, the Park Department, and our architectural firm. I think we've talked to a lot of groups. The county council is not one of the groups that we've talked to. I think we've talked to the commissioners and, of course, the city, and I just talked to the school superintendent today. But I don't know if you know, but the old historic building at Ray Park is underway. The renovation is underway. And they expect for the park, or for the clubhouse to be done in May of 2026. And likely, in the next few years, the rest of the park to unfold. I know you're all aware that Vigo County has some of the highest percentage of children living in poverty. You also probably know about the health that we have that's not very good. You put those two together. I was a former superintendent down in Pike County, an assistant superintendent for instruction, and I know very well that when you put poverty, high poverty together with poor health, you're going to have a low graduation rate. And those people are not going to get through school. Those are your future workers. So we just want to have a chance to maybe talk to you a little bit about, like Lori did today, about what's unfolding at Ray Park. There's a lot of people in the county that use Ray Park. And it's going to be something else. I've talked to Brad already about Ray. So someone needs to guide me maybe after the meeting how I can make a presentation. I'll bring the architect and probably Kylie Smith with me. It's been a partnership. We've raised, they haven't gotten it all pending an agreement, but we've raised over $825,000 cash. That doesn't include all the in-kind effort that we've put forth over a 12-year period. So we'd like to share our good story with you when you have the time, so you know about it.
Thank you.
So, okay.
I want to tell you, he has worked hard to get this done. I was down there the other day to look at some of the construction, but he came to me 4 or 5 years ago and had been working on this for a long time. And like I said, I grew up down there at Ray Park playing tennis and putting on the putting green because it was free. Everything was free, you know, when I was a little kid. But I'll tell you, you've done a great job, and you
Thanks,
need to be
Brad.
commended on what you've done down there.
Well, we're going to have a big bash when we dedicate it. It'll probably be a weekend. We'll have a big party, and we'll celebrate the contribution that the Ray family made for the last 100 years.
The people that don't know that place, they used to have proms there, weddings there. It was a beautiful place. But
It's got to be beautiful again, too.
yep, it's going to be great. Well, thank you again, though, for all your hard work.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Take a motion to adjourn.
Let's go a little longer.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Ellis, second by Councilwoman Wilson. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Don't forget to sign your paperwork.